Good afternoon. This is Greenwood Leflore Consolidated School District's work session, October 28, 2020, 4:30. If we could pause for a moment of silent prayer. Amen. Dr. Brown.
Good afternoon. Now, work session agenda, number one, you see data reports, but if the board, if we can start with updates from our financial consultant, Ms. Suzanne Smith. Ms. Smith.
Thank you, ma'am. I first met you all back in mid-May 2020, and we embarked upon a journey with a contract that had two phases in it. The first phase was for us to reconcile the old Greenwood School District's 2018-29 bank statements and to get the accounting records for that old dissolved school district ready to be audited. We completed that work. The auditor was able to come in and finish the audit, and that report is now published and available on the state auditor's website. Phase two of our work, we were to prepare new consolidation entries to reflect those audited Greenwood accounts to bring them into the new consolidated district. We were to reconcile the 2019-2020 bank statements for the new consolidated district because it was nearly impossible to have reconciled those bank statements without the true beginning cash balances coming in from Greenwood. We also reconciled the new consolidated district's revenue reconciliation and tied down all interfund balances for the 1920 year. We helped to prepare the accounting records in conjunction with Ms. Washington to be submitted to MDE through the FET system, and you were able to meet that deadline to get those done by October the 15th. We have also prepared an audit file for your auditors to use in auditing the 1920 school year. At the end of June 2020, the new consolidated school district's general fund balance is $11,610,530. That is 33% of the total general fund revenues for the 1920 year. And that's a good, healthy fund balance. So that's a bit of really good news for you as you move forward. I feel that the financial information going into this new year, the 2021 year, is accurate, and it will provide you, the school board, and your finance office and superintendent with the basis on which to make sound financial decisions. Phase one and phase two of our contract are complete. I had talked with you all about phase three and had hoped that our firm would be able to assist with that. But audit season has started, and we will be working nonstop until the end of April doing audits for other school districts that we were already under contract with. I am recommending to you and to the superintendent and the business manager that you assist the expertise of an outside person to reconcile the July, August, and September bank statements for this new year, which should be much, much easier than trying to reconcile the new consolidated ones, and to train the district's accountant, starting with the October bank statements on site at the school district. Now, the reason I'm recommending this is that I think he's eager to learn it. I think he has the capability to learn how to do it, but it's much different from us reconciling our bank statements at home. One bank statement can have over 20 funds in it. So the whole process of reconciling governmental fund bank statements is tricky. We also have clearing funds that are impressed funds, that money goes into those funds each month from the other funds to clear payroll checks and to clear accounts payable claims. And that's a little bit different than you find in the other world. I know that because the first year of consolidation is so very difficult, there had been little time to train him. And also the beginning cash balances for Greenwood were not there, so it would have been impossible to do anyway. I would recommend that the training encompass 3 to 6 months worth of bank statement reconciliations, and that process should take probably 2 to 3 days a month. This will enable your staff to do the reconciliations on a timely basis and will save the school district money in the long run. I want to shout out a special thanks to Ms. Washington, Ms. Pulley, and Mr. Collins for assistance in gathering the information. They responded very quickly to every request that I had, and that helped to make this project possible. Also, a thanks to the superintendent who saw the need for the assistance and did not hesitate in getting it. And another thanks to you, the school board, for what you do for the students in Greenwood and in the greater Leflore County area. I'm not sure that people appreciate school board members and school administrators sometimes like they should, but the decisions that you make and the things that you do are far-reaching and will last for generations to come as those students live out their lives. So I do want to say that I appreciate you all. I have a very special interest because I spent so many hours on this project, so much time working with the people there and seeing you be successful in this. And I really think that you can be. So I would recommend that phase 3 be implemented. I've given the name to Mrs. Washington of a person who may be interested and may be a good fit for the school district. And at this time, I'll entertain any questions that you may have.
I don't have any questions, but I thank you for your time and your diligence in helping us get up to par.
You're very welcome, and like I say, it was a project that I enjoyed very, very much. Okay, well, if you don't have any questions, then if you need anything in the future, please don't hesitate to call me. And if you need anything when they start auditing the information, or if you hire someone to assist, I'm just a phone call away.
Before we continue, I do want to say this. I don't usually get emotional. You probably saying, well, why? But to hear Ms. Suzanne say, where we are, and now that things are looking good, I do want to take a moment, because a lot of times people view our sessions and they may feel like we disagree a lot, but I do want to thank our school board, because when I asked for the assistance from Ms. Smith and Ms. Jones, they supported that, and they do support my decision. So I do want to thank you for that, because just to be a new superintendent and to hear those words of appreciation from someone on the outside that we are on the right track and we're headed there, I couldn't do it without the school board saying yes. So I do want to take the time to say thank you. And to those who do see our board meetings, yes, we do disagree, and that's what you want. You want us to disagree, but come to a common understanding, because this is truly how you get things done in a school district. So thank you to the school board, and thank you to Ms. Washington, because she really has worked hard to try her best to pull it together, to pull 2 school districts together. So I want you to know that I do appreciate you, Ms. Washington, as well as the executive leadership team. So at this time, we will begin again with our data reports, and we'll start with enrollment. And enrollment is on page, the student enrollment. So here, I placed the enrollments for the months of August, September, and as of October 26th. And to show from August until October, our enrollment has increased by 418 students, and we do anticipate more students enrolling, as well as continue to work with the schools to make sure the students are actually registered in those schools. So that is an update on student enrollment. But what we also wanted to do was to provide the principals with their average daily attendance percentages for the months. And so if you look at what we have here for the months of August through October, and I just created a little scale to show them, you know, where we need to be, where we need to keep our eyes on as far as average daily attendance. And so I give you some time to look at the August through October, and also say that we are meeting with principals, not only discussing attendance and ways that we can keep track and monitor attendance, but other things as well. On the next page, we have lunch counts, Mr. Johnson.
Good evening. What you have in front of you are the monthly total and the daily totals for October 1st through October 26th, which was Monday, and we had it by school. If you have any questions or concerns.
Question, Mr. Johnson. Are we seeing any waste? And if we are, how are we combating that or trying to?
Well, actually, we're not seeing any waste. We are needing to get more participants, and that's one of the things we have been doing this week is trying to get more people to participate in receiving the free meals, because our food service revenue depends on the number of meals that we serve. Normally, what we would be serving would be the enrollment for each school, and I'll give an example. On a daily basis, Amanda Hills, and we are averaging somewhere between 220 and 230 meals. Normally, that school will be serving 600 meals. So we're trying to meet, right now we're trying to ramp up the numbers so we can meet that daily total. And so I will make the appeal while anybody 18 years or younger, regardless of if you're a student of the Greenwood Leflore Consolidated School District, you can receive a meal no matter what school location, whether you live in one location and you're at another location, you can receive those meals. We do have bus delivery, so if anyone 18 years or younger in need of meals, please contact our food service director, Jacqueline Howard, at GLCSD.org.
Next, we have first read board policy revision, BBE.
Good afternoon, board members. What you have in front of you is a proposed policy revision for policy BBE, school board attorney. And in this policy, originally it stated that the board of trustees will employ the attorney to serve for a period of 1 year to commencing the first day of July, is what it initially said. But the practices that we've had since the inception of GLCSD is that the school board would retain its attorney in January. So the policy revision is only to change that date to consider the attorney's retention is, we just change it from July to January to be in compliance with what we've been doing for the past, since we started.
Question, Madam President. Is there a particular reason why we've been doing January? I would assume that it's customary to kind of follow whatever your fiscal year is in regards to employment.
Well, since I've been on the board, we've always done it since January, so I don't know what they do prior to me, but I know it's best practices to do it, to have your policy to state what you're practicing.
Thank you.
And I will say this, if I say is that initially, the first order of business, that was directed by the State Department of the school board, hired the attorney, and that was in January, and we did that January 2019. And it's just gonna be good to continue to do it, especially when you're dealing with your officers and all that in January. But that is just a board decision, it can be any month that you choose.
But it was just something that I caught, because it stated that July, but we do it in January.
Okay, board members, I wanted to go back. We have our first 9 weeks test results, and Dr. Pulley will briefly go over those.
Good afternoon. This data that you have includes a breakdown of the percent proficient and percent mastery in each subject area by school. Since we did not take an end-of-year assessment back in the spring, we have no clear way of measuring student growth at this time. MDE has not provided any additional guidance as to how it will calculate student growth, as we know it is a part of the accountability model. So what the district decided to do is, because we don't know this at this moment, we're going to monitor and track proficiency, and then also monitor and track the percent of mastery that students are performing in on each assessment. So if you look at one, and I'll just explain one of the areas. So if we look at the first page, ELA performance, and we're looking at the first school. So the first column is the percent proficient and above, and then the next 3 columns is the percent mastering the standard. So in green, this is the percent of students who mastered the standards that were represented on the assessment. Yellow, these are the ones who were right there on the bubble, almost mastering. And then in red, these are the students who we have identified as needing additional interventions and supports. And so we have been, Ms. Coleman and I have been meeting with administrative staff to create action plans for those particular students who are near mastery, those particular students who are in the remediation category. We believe that if we can get our students to mastering the standard, then their performance on the assessment will definitely increase. So with a focus on those standards, what you see is the overall report. What our teachers see, for example, that number in remediation, they see a list of students that number represents. And so they'll be able to easily see if there were 10 standards on the assessment, student A did not master 3 of those standards, then the teacher and principal automatically know how to plan the interventions and supports for this student so that we can provide additional time, as we already have in our virtual instruction, to assist this student in those 3 standards that they are deficient in. And so it is important that we keep an eye on our data. We recognize that we're in a different time, and so we want to keep an eye on our data, especially now, so that we can catch our students where they are and not just know the numbers, but know the names behind the numbers, so that in each area, in each category, we know exactly which students to target as it relates to additional supports that we're going to provide.
Dr. Pulley,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm looking at our science performance standards, and I'm looking at the percentage, which is that 3rd page I'm referring to. And this year, our students are taking the 5th and 8th grade science tests.
Yes, ma'am.
As far as I know, the State Department has not phased that out for this year. So we're
That's right.
still on schedule,
Yes, ma'am.
correct? Okay, so I'm looking at the extreme left and the extreme right. So what are we doing to remediate that percentage? Because I'm looking at the remediation percentages are quite high in comparison to proficient data.
And so what we have been doing this week, we started at the end of last week. We had data presentations where we explained the data to the school principals and the leadership teams, and then they turned around the next day and shared that particular data with us. And this week, Ms. Coben and I are meeting with the leadership teams to, one, identify priority groups. Who are the students that are in red? Who are the students in yellow? And then now, once we identify our priority groups, what are we going to do in each of these levels? Are we going to provide additional remediation during the intervention blocks? Are we going to provide, and I'm going to use a different area here, I know we're talking about science, but are we going to take the particular standard that is a priority standard? And when we say priority standard, we're talking about the standards that are heavily weighted on the assessment. And so we're going to identify what are those priority standards, and then how did our students perform on those priority standards? When we identify that, then, and principals have already done that, then we will take the teachers who are our experts in RL, in RL1 or in RI2. And then we're going to strategically place our students in those teachers' classes so that they can receive that content-specific instruction on that particular standard.
Now, I apologize, I did overlook the mastery column, which is the green column, and they are up.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
do you know what other variables may contribute to the extreme right? I know we're at virtual, and I'm thinking, you know, of course that may be one of the variables, but well, variable number one. But what about maybe a second? Have we identified? It's rhetorical. You don't have to answer it, but just, I don't know. Let's figure out how we can, and I'm looking at near mastery, the score, the percentages are increasing rather. But just maybe if we can figure out other variables other than COVID-19. You know, are parents struggling at home with children? Who are they with at home? I just want us to, and I know we're doing what we can. I got it. But let's see if we can tighten that up a little bit, because the proficient and above in comparison to the extreme right, it was, but mastery looks good. Mastery does look good.
Dr. Fuller.
Yes, ma'am.
So we're looking at school-wide data. Can we see this broken down by grade levels within each school or not?
Yeah, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So either Dr. Brown or Dr. Foley, Dr. Moore kind of led into my question in regards to what implications has virtual learning or the method of instruction being delivered had on these numbers. And again, I'm a proponent for us coming back to school in some form, but once we do return, for those students that are near mastery or in remediation, are we starting to plan accordingly if we have these students before us physically in a building to kind of accommodate them and provide them with the necessary services that they need to get to the mastery stage?
Yes, sir.
Dr. Pulley, I'm looking on the last page of the sheet that you gave us,
Yes, ma'am.
and I'm just wondering, what are we doing across the district? And I'm just gonna say school A, school B, and school C.
Yes, ma'am.
Because it seems like school A really has it, but are we doing anything to let school A help school B and C?
Teachers are participating in this particular group. Teachers are participating in weekly grade level and subject area meetings where we take each area has a particular leader or facilitator of those meetings, and definitely based on data, what we do is allow the person who has that strongest data lead those discussions, talk about those strategies that are being used to definitely assist in that. And because we're virtual at this moment, that's one thing that Ms. Coleman and I have been looking at. Because we're virtual and all we have to do is click a link, and join the class, then at this time, students at one school are already receiving instruction from a teacher at another due to, just our creative scheduling on what we're having to do. And so a part of the identifying of the priority groups and providing the interventions will include all teachers. If there's an opportunity for a student to improve, for example, we have, because of our SIG grant, we have, those particular schools have after school from 3:30 to 5:30. So if there's something at one of the SIG schools, or if there's a student at another school who may need the support, then we would definitely work cross schools to provide that support.
Dr. Pulley, where is mastery, the mastery percentage? How is that calculated into the grading system for the actual test?
It is not. Growth is what's calculated. But because we don't have in order to measure growth, we would have had to know what the students scored in May. Well,
Okay.
Because they didn't take a test, we don't have that. But so we can operate proactively. What we're wanting to do is say, hey, if I know on RL1 on this particular assessment, Kenneth did not master these 3 standards. Then in 2 weeks or in 3 weeks, the next time we test on these standards, we need to see some growth with Kenneth on this particular standard because we provided him or her with those particular supports. So we're going to monitor the growth on our end on these standards. We're not going to wait till MDE tell us how they're going to calculate it. And so this is how we're going to try to monitor our kids on each standard that they're being tested on.
Have they had any conversations about providing leadership and possible resolutions for assisting districts with, test data? Well, I don't guess we would have that. No discussions from MDE at all.
Dr. Moore, I think at this time, during our school leadership team meetings with MDE, those guidance on testing is pending. It continues to be pending. We meet with our MDE literacy coaches on a monthly basis, or in some schools weekly if there is school improvement. It's pending.
And what we're wanting to do is to keep the mindset, if they don't change the accountability model, we still have to keep our focus and monitor.
Okay.
So if they come out in February and say everything's gonna be the same, we can't wait until February, and so we're wanting to be proactive, and this is our way of, and the only way that we know to really monitor growth is if I didn't master this standard on this test, when I'm tested again, there ought to be some growth for me.
Dr. Pulley.
Yes, ma'am.
So if you can recall, based on this first assessment, what were our 3rd graders across the district looking like? We know that they have to take the GATE test, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So if you can recall, basically from, district-wide.
I can say that on this particular assessment, students in 3rd grade performed better. And on this particular assessment, students performed better on those particular standards as compared to maybe 5th grade. And I'll be able to show you that when I print it.
Okay.
So they did perform better. Not where we want to be at all, of course, but we do recognize, and I can say at one particular school that had scored the lowest in the last time we tested, that percent proficient was about 29, which totally was not it the last time that they tested for 3rd grade. So I do know we are seeing some gains in ELA. That's an area that we're providing much support. We do recognize, based on our data, that math now, it has traditionally been the area where we scored much higher. Ms. Coleman and I had conversations today on what we need to do in math to make sure that our students are receiving what they need there.
Thank you.
Next, we have updates on paper from chiefs, and Mr. Johnson asked if the nurses could come and provide their updates, but the rest of the updates on paper. Mr. Johnson.
Thank y'all for having us. I am Beverly Quinn, RN. I am the school nurse at Bankston Elementary School and Davis Elementary School. Very privileged to have this position, and we thank y'all. I'm gonna let Adrienne introduce herself.
Good evening, I'm Adrienne Spells. I'm the new nurse at Leflore Elementary and Leflore High School.
School nurses began this odd 2020 school year this summer by meeting with Mr. Johnson several times in face-to-face and virtually meetings regarding school district health issues and COVID-19. We created the policy and procedure additions related to COVID-19. In August, we cleaned our offices, met with our principals, and ordered health supplies for the new year. One exciting thing we ordered for the district is new audiometers for each nurse and the SPED office. These machines test students' hearing. This was a big purchase for the district and will enable us to test hearing better due to the fact we will have updated, new, calibrated machines, and we can trust the results. One of the main jobs as the school nurse is that we do hearing and screenings a lot on students. Kindergarten and pre-K students require a mandatory hearing and vision in the first 45 days of school. This is an MDE requirement. To fulfill this in the year of COVID, it required us working with virtual teachers and getting in touch with parents to come to the school with their children for these screenings. All 6 nurses met at each of our schools and conducted these screenings. In August, we did 93 hearing and vision screenings. In September, we performed 175 screenings. And I do want to interject that, Adrienne, I'm going to talk about what we as school nurses have been doing just in general. Adrienne's going to focus on what we've been doing with COVID. So she'll talk to y'all about how we did the screenings in a COVID way. Let's see. Other mandatory hearing and vision screenings are any Tier 2 and Tier 3 students that are identified. Hearing and vision is the first thing to be performed. I completed 18 of these at Bankston last week and will be preparing for 90 of these screenings at Davis soon. Adrienne has begun work at LCHS and Leflore High School on her tier students, anticipating around 40 students in the near future. Another mandatory hearing and vision screening is for the SPED department. These screenings are required each time a student is re-evaluated. We travel to surrounding schools as well to perform these tasks. Pella Academy, North New Summit, St. Francis, God's Helping Hands, and the Detention Center. Elsie this week is anticipating 50 screenings, and Friday all nurses will be at Threadville Primary for screenings. Another thing we have been working on is immunization documents. Students all must have a 121 form in their CUME folder. School nurses assist the counselors with this and by being members of the MIX program. The MIX program is the Mississippi Immunization Information Exchange with the Mississippi Department of Health. School nurses are granted access to this program so we can see what students need in their various shots. December is when a mandatory form will need to be completed and mailed to the Mississippi Department of Health to verify all students have these required shots. And we have to do this even though all this COVID stuff is going on. Another thing we are working on is getting our parents to upload asthma action plans, seizure plans, and any other medical documents in the SAMS program. Soon the school nurses will meet with Mrs. Day for a training in how to add valid medical documents to our SAMS program. This way teachers will see any health issues on their students, and if a student goes to another school, this health information will travel with them. Adrian and I attended the Asthma and Allergy Association trainings online to keep up to date in asthma. We also sat in on a suicide training online with the Mississippi State University Psychology Department and obtained CEU points and a certificate. She and I just completed the mandatory teen suicide training with the Society for Teen Suicide Prevention. We also serve as medical liaisons on campus to assist with any faculty members with health problems, and we check blood pressures as needed. I am a certified American Heart Association CPR trainer. I conducted, with assistance from Adrian, CPR training to new security guards. Soon I plan to get trained on how to do blended CPR training. This is a way to do training online because our coaches are going to need to be up to date on their certification soon. Now I will let Adrian speak about what all we as school nurses have done to prepare for COVID-19 in our school district. Thank y'all.
There still remains a lot of uncertainty and challenges that we are facing. Novel coronavirus caused cases are still increasingly high. Therefore, the health and safety of our staff and students are the highest priority. As Nurse Quinn mentioned, we have been doing the hearing and vision screenings. During those screenings at Leflore Elementary and all the other schools, guidelines were followed to keep the environment safe during testing. A plan was collaborated between nurses. Students were scheduled in 15 to 30-minute intervals to alleviate crowding and adhere to social distancing. Temperature checks were performed on students and parents. Disinfectants on doors and chairs and antimicrobial wipes on headphones were used between each screening. Overall, screenings were very successful. I and the nurses are staying current on the issues of COVID-19 pandemic and following the cases in our county. We attend weekly seminars, webinars with Dr. Dobbs, the state health officer, and have to submit a weekly report. As to date, there are no new positive cases or new quarantine cases for the week of 10/19 through 10/23 at Leflore Elementary and Leflore High, Numbers have been at a minimum. This report is sent to Ms. Sabrina Moore weekly. As reported from Davis and Bankston, Nurse Quinn states there are no on-campus cases. There have been no on-campus cases all year. We are currently reminding all staff to continue to follow CDC guidelines and GLCSD protocols as it relates to slowing the spread of COVID-19. By properly wearing face masks or face coverings to protect from respiratory droplets, social distancing at all times, 6 feet or greater, hand washing for 20 seconds and or using an alcohol-based hand sanitizer, temperature checks, and also reminding staff to monitor their health daily. Be alert to symptoms. If they start having any symptoms, fever, cough, shortness of breath, difficulty breathing, contact his or her healthcare provider and stay at home. At the elementary school, I have had several employees concerned with their blood pressure and have come weekly for BP blood pressure checks. I have also administered first aid treatment performed on an employee for a minor incident. Nurses have been also making sure temperature stations and hand sanitizers in classrooms are functioning properly. We have posted signs at Leflore Elementary and all of the other surrounding schools in highly visible locations such as school entrance and restrooms that promote everyday protective measures and describe how to stop the spread of germs, such as properly wearing hands and properly wearing a cloth face mask, washing hands, excuse me. The custodians have been cleaning and disinfecting frequently touched surfaces with the COVID spray throughout the day. So kudos to the Leflore Elementary and Leflore High custodians. They've been doing a great job. I've been noticing them down the halls. Students, we have been providing information to keep students and parents up to date on prevention strategies, hand washing, social issues, and social distancing via email links and through district websites and Facebook. The goal is staying connected with students, parents during these challenging times by encouraging students and parents to continue to stay safe, stay healthy, and stay positive. We have also sent via email links for students on Global Hand Washing Day, which was October the 15th. We sent information packages and also did videos. Red Ribbon Week was October the 23rd through the 31st, and we sent out literature via email. For breast cancer awareness, also we did the same. And currently we're doing the CDC safety tips for trick-or-treating Halloween, which will be sent via email, and which also to parents in the students link. So, thank you.
And I'd just like to add that our school nurses play a very important role during the normal school setting, but they have been a valuable asset when it comes to this year as it relates to COVID-19 protocols and procedures. And I'd just like to personally take this time to say thank you for all that you do.
So Dr. Brown, I heard from, about Leflore, but for the rest of the schools, who keep up with the number of cases?
So Mr. Johnson has assigned, we have Dr. Hodges and Mrs. Tanner Moore. They are not only assigned to assist with academics, but they have 6 schools each, and they're responsible for going to the schools as well as collecting the COVID-19 information. And Mr. Johnson, can you explain their roles?
And the nurses actually keep up with it. Each nurse is assigned to school. For example, Ms. Fales is at Leflore High, Leflore Elementary. Nurse Quinn is at Davis and Bankston, and we have Nurse Stevenson. She's at Greenwood High, Greenwood Middle. She will report those numbers. Nurse Gray will be reporting for, I want to make sure I get it right, East and Threadhill. And then we have Nurse Coleman for Claudia Brown and Threadhill Primary.
So they report the numbers to Tanner Moore and Hodges, and then they report them to you all?
Yes, they report them to me, they report them to them as a second step. We also have to report the numbers weekly to Mississippi Department of Health.
Madam President, if I may, I just want to share the sentiments of Mr. Johnson and say thank you all for the work that you do. I think oftentimes we may take for granted the tedious work that you all do, but certainly with COVID, it has brought that to the light. So continue keeping on, and we certainly appreciate it.
Okay, next we have a review of athletic supplements. Mr. Johnson.
I think it's on page 21. And I'll give you a chance to look over it if you have any questions on this item.
All right, Mr. Johnson. So first, let me thank Dr. Brown, Ms. Washington, and Mr. Johnson for taking time to speak with me in regards to this. And I do think that you all have done a diligent job based on where we are, especially with finances and COVID, to compensate our coaches. But I do share some concern, as I stated, in regards to the very first person that's listed there, based on the accomplishments from last year. Again, I'm not necessarily suggesting what can be done or what should be done, but I certainly think, some consideration should be given to what was achieved.
My only comment would be, the last line on each one. I just don't see, because we're social distancing and, I don't see I don't wanna say that I don't see the need. I do see the need, but because of the coronavirus, I just don't think those last lines of each category should be there.
So if there's something that y'all that you would want us to look back at and revise, there's something that we can do before we bring it on.
Well-
next Wednesday.
Well, me and Madam President, we tend to see eye to eye, but I just disagree with this one because I understand the importance of having this for these young ladies, so, but that's just my opinion.
Any other board member?
Yes, so, as far as the supplement is concerned, will it be awarded all at one time, or is it gonna be per game, per month, or?
And normally how supplements work, even if we went in COVID, they get us, say, a set amount and it's divided over the game period. So technically they'll see every month during that season, during that particular season.
Okay, so it's not a monthly,
What they will be receiving it monthly during that particular season. We'll watch them correctly if I'm wrong on that. But just say, for instance, to give an example, we were doing football season, they will see those supplements in their checks from August to November to the current of that season. So
Okay.
this will work the same.
okay, and then in that second category, I don't know, my opinion is, I think they deserve a little bit more than what we have here. Because if you think about it, they are required to be at each game. And, I don't know, that's just my opinion.
And now, if you would like, I can give you a copy of what supplements that they received last year, as well as the supplements they received the year before. If you just want to look at those for comparison, basis, I could go grab those right quick if there's something y'all would like to look at.
She wants to see.
Yeah.
And Dr. Brown, while we waiting on him, if you don't mind, can we go back to number 4?
Yes, ma'am.
I want you to look at the first one, the one that was on top, I think.
What page you have, President?
Page 8.
Thank you.
Page 8.
And I've numbered mines, so I want you to look at number 5. And I just want to make sure that the necessary items are placed inside of these, because I've heard some complaints.
Okay.
So I'm saying, while they placing them, can they make sure that they put the necessary items?
Yes, ma'am.
Valid point, Madam President. Valid
Thank you,
point.
Dr. Bailey.
Dr. Brown, the last one on that, same page?
Okay.
So that's for, is that for extra security or?
I'm sure it would be for, extra security. I'll check with him to see, or Mr. Johnson, to see why it's being placed there.
Okay.
Along with that number 8 that she just talked about on page 8, Dr. Brown.
Yes, ma'am.
So is there any kind of way like a camera could be there also? Because of the where that place is?
Yeah, and I think Shannon has ordered and is working to get, not just in that area, he's working to get some cameras installed.
Okay.
Is it a possibility, Dr. Brown, that that guard shack could be manned like it has been in the past?
It could.
Well, and so pretty much what she's saying, I'm saying, can a camera be there?
Right
Because
there at the guard
the
shack.
person by themselves is not gonna help. We need some more eyes, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Because of where it's located. Ms. Coleman, if you don't mind, on page 19, I'm looking at the number of students, and I just want to ask the question, do we have enough staff the proper number of staff with those number of students?
Yes, ma'am. And that includes your speech, that includes everything, so the staff members are adequately accounted for.
Dr. Brown, on page 11, were all parents met with and given the opportunity to sign a document indicating that they were in agreement with their children playing sports?
With the playing winter,
Especially basketball.
Mr. Jones, have they had their meeting yet? Because I know one thing that we talked about, Mr. Gatewood was communicating with them that they had to, if they wanted them to play, they had to sign.
Yes,
The
yes,
waiver.
yes, they have to sign what's in Dragonfly, and that's a Mississippi High School Activity Association waiver that all athletes have to sign, so it has been done with
So, I think she's also asking what did, has the parent been, met with? Have they met with parents?
Yes, they met with parents and players prior to the beginning of practice. Because that's when they actually when they get their physicals and took the COVID-19 test.
So, Mr. Johnson, just to clarify, Ms. Lewis's question, in that waiver, are you familiar with any language, relating to COVID?
I have to go back and look at it. I think Coach Gates was a little more familiar with it than myself, but I'll go back.
Okay, but Madam Board, that's your concern, right? The COVID portion of the waiver? Okay.
And also, with the winter sports, do we have like a standard operating procedure type document that's in place for these winter sports?
And I guess you mean as in a plan of how they would operate, is Coach Gates has that document.
Will we be able to have a copy of that?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
So what we voted on the other day was winter and spring sports, right?
It was.
Can you tell me what are spring sports?
Spring sports are baseball, track and field. Those are the only two that come to mind right off. It's baseball, softball, baseball, and track.
With tennis, maybe?
What about volleyball?
Volleyball is a fall sport.
Just a fall, okay. So just baseball, softball, and track.
Tennis,
Tennis.
possibly golf.
Possibly golf, you said?
Excuse me, I do want to make a comment, that I know we want to get back involved in the sports, but I want the board to be aware that there will not be any financing coming from the sports like normal. And then we also are looking at the fact that because you only have one sport this year and it may or may not bring in much revenue, normally your revenue from those sports usually is enough to, and not quite enough, but enough to keep going. And without that revenue, I just need the board to realize that that money has to come, normally dip into your fund balance to pay for it.
What about Mr. Johnson? Also, when she's saying about the revenue, what about the meals that they eat? That will be coming out of our revenue too, right?
Pretty much everything that we're taking on right now is gonna come off district fund balance because we hadn't generated any revenue.
And so with this particular sport that we're on now, this will be like what, once or twice a week, or how? Do you know? The
Most
schedule.
games I wanna say is Tuesdays and Thursdays, if I'm not mistaken, and sometimes on
And so that's for
Saturdays and
each
Saturdays. Each school.
mhm.
Have we entertained the idea of, these games being able to be viewed online?
We have. Mr. Johnson, can you kind of explain what we discussed and what you all, talked about live streaming the games?
Yes, as of now, we won't have any live spectators at the game due to our COVID-19 restriction policy. We only have the players, the coaches, and the necessary staff on hand for that game. So our games will be live streamed via our school sites. We have live streaming sites that we recently purchased for each school, to include Greenwood, Ohio, Florida, Atlanta, Hills. That will be streamed. The first game will be streamed for free. Everybody will be able to watch that game. Any game after that will cost a nominal fee. We still in kind of negotiation on what that price would be based on the fact that the live streaming site is a percentage of those ticket sales. So we're trying to make sure that we can price it enough to where we can actually generate some revenue.
So if a student or a coach test positive for COVID, will the whole game be canceled?
In most situations, yes. If anyone tests positive, I think they have to report it to the Mississippi High School Activity Association, and then they will make the necessary contacts to cancel that particular game.
So, okay, Coach Gatewood, you'll be the person responsible for giving those updates to Mississippi High School Association?
Quarantining process is that still like 14 or 15 days?
Yes, it's.
Okay, so they would have to quarantine the whole group?
Yes, because they would all be considered close contact because, of course, basketball, you can't wear a mask, and as they practice, they don't have masks, so they are exposed.
So, Madam President, if I may, Mr. Johnson, in response to the question from Dr. Moore, I'm going to ask that you all do some research on that, and I say that in the sense of I certainly understand the contact tracing part and the potential exposure, but I think if we take the necessary protocols or processes in regards to possibly having the students practice in groups versus just up and down the court 5-on-5 or what have you, we can possibly limit the exposure to someone that contracted COVID. Again, limit and possibly. I'm not saying that, it's an end all or a safe all method, but just something to take into consideration.
Mr. Johnson, what will be the, testing protocols? How often will they be tested?
I'll let Coach Gatewood speak on that.
The test protocol is when someone do test positive for COVID, everybody go get retested. Through Mississippi High School Activities Association, it's not required for them to only get tested when they start the season. Now, if the team somebody test positive, we have to retest everyone. Before we begin the season this year, we had everybody that's participating right now in basketball, they had to take a physical, and they also had to take a COVID-19 test. So we made sure that everybody was tested negative before they started. Now, if a child develops symptoms during a practice, we have to notify the parent. We test them 3 times, take the temperature 3 times, ask them the question, do they have fever, they've been nauseated, headache. If they say yes, we send them home. We notify the parents, let the parents know, get that child tested. If that child comes back positive, then we have to test everybody over again. Automatically go in quarantine for 14 days. I will notify Mississippi High School Activities Association that we have some cases in Greenwood on the girl basketball team. Everybody must quarantine for 14 days. Took Mr. Bailey, when Mr. Bailey asked about practicing in group, it's impossible for them to practice in groups because they're going to have to play against other students. Now, if everybody in the state that we play practice in a group, you still cannot contain it. Because if somebody goes out right now and contract COVID, and they give it to their child at home, and the child bring it back to our practice section, that's why we take the temperatures every day. But we would know, I tell them right now, if you participate, your chance of contracting COVID increase 50% more. So if you had an 80% chance of taking it, catching it, you got a 130% chance now. Most of every school, out of 10 schools, at least 8 schools came back that they had to sit out 2 games. Some of them had to sit out 6 games because of COVID. There's gonna be some days that we're supposed to play someone that they might contract COVID that we can't play. So, you know, we're looking at a situation now, it's give and take. When the time is right, we can play. Time is not right, we can't play.
I have a question, Coach Greenwood. Will nurses be traveling with the teams to do the, did we just answer that? Okay. How will they be tested? Are they gonna be tested, on site before the game, during the game? So how does that work?
No, the only thing they would do, they'd follow the same protocol they follow at practice. They would be given the temperature before they leave. Once they get there, you know, ask the same question. Now when they come back, the same protocol. Just like they practicing. Only thing different, they go into another situation. Now if they get back and you start having kids developing those symptoms, we immediately have them go get tested.
So is there someone designated on the coaching staff?
The coaching staff.
All right, I just wondered.
Okay. And like I say, you know, based on what football season was been going on football season, we have known teams to travel to other places and catch COVID and bring it back. And they had to quarantine the entire team.
So Coach Gay, would there be going to a facility to be tested, right?
Yes, ma'am. We have it set up where we can test through different clinics.
Mm-hmm. And would it be a rapid test?
It'd be a rapid test. Mm-hmm. It's still, a rapid test still takes 3 to 4 days to come back.
Do we pay for that?
And just to add, and Coach may not be aware, but every Thursday at the Leflore County Health Department, UMC tests any school district student or faculty or staff, and I have talked to our local health department, and if that situation would arise, we could get our players there. We just have to go and schedule that time for them to take the test. So we do have that available, and they do have rapid tests, and it takes about 15 minutes to get those results. But they always let you know that those are presumptive, whatever it is. You still have to take the second test, which takes 48 hours to come back.
But I think as an extra layer of precaution, these children need to be tested on a regular basis, because we've seen so many young people who are asymptomatic. They could be positive, not showing any symptoms, and spreading it all at the same time.
And that would be an additional cost. That's something we can look into.
But don't our COVID funds cover testing?
We didn't, that wasn't put in our COVID.
Yeah,
That we applied, that was not put in there.
So question, so I know it was mentioned about taking temperatures, but I mean, it's been disputed that taking temperatures is a good measure to identify if somebody has COVID or not. But I mean, I can appreciate the effort. And as Ms. Lewis indicated, for those persons that are asymptomatic, that kind of defeats the purpose. But I would certainly support weekly testing, be it the health department, if we have to transport the students over there. Because for me, it puts some kind of accountability on the students to say, I need to do what I need to do if I want to participate in this sport. And again, there's no fail-safe, you know, it's not perfect, but it adds another layer of protection for the students, the district, as well as the other players and their families.
Now the only part with that, they only do it on Thursday, and I know some games are on Thursday, so I'm not sure how that will work out.
And I think the health department, really in order, some places, they only test if you have symptoms.
Yes, and
So it might be an issue if they won't test.
And having it done weekly is detrimental to that child, because you're talking about a painful test that they got to do it every week, and
But the rapid test is not,
It's the same.
it's the same. And you talking about, what you about to do is, if we have to go weekly, I'm telling you right now that you finna not have any sports, period. And I understand.
Yes, I think in Greenwood is only at the hospital.
Yeah,
I think the health department.
it's 3 to 4 days.
They do, I took it last week and I talked to them when I was out there last week. They do give you a rapid test if you have been exposed. You have to actually get swabbed twice. You have to get the rapid test swab and then you have to get the regular test swab. So you get swabbed twice and you have to park and wait and they give you your rapid test in 15 minutes and then you'll get your other test back in 48 hours. And they have made that available to school districts and school district students, faculty, staff, and school district students. But she did advise me that you will only be able to get a rapid test if you are showing symptoms other than you have to do a 24-hour test, 48-hour test today.
If we have to have any type of rapid test, would that incur a cost to the district?
Yes, because you have to actually have, and I know the state and Dr. Dawes have mentioned that they are looking at possibly getting rapid tests available to school districts, but you have to have a person that's, I want to say, certified to perform those tests. And I'm actually, at this time, I'm not sure the nurses may have a little more information on what that means, having someone certified to be able to do those, because anybody couldn't just do the rapid test.
I think we have to have a doctor. In order for us to do the district, we have to have a doctor, not on staff, but kind of looking over us that will take the liability, and we don't have that.
I still think we need that extra layer of protection, and I think students, if they really want to play sports, then this should be something that they don't mind, because they should be looking at keeping themselves, others, their coaches, everybody, their family safe. Otherwise, we could have a whole team infected.
Doesn't the waiver though cover, like, isn't that the parent saying, I know, I understand, there's this chance, but I want my child to play? Doesn't that cover us? And I know that in the school district, if somebody has symptoms, it's the parent's responsibility to take the child to get them tested. So that's my thoughts. We have to wait.
I think Ms. Lewis's point is the waiver is for liability purposes, but for accountability purposes with our students. You know, I don't want you saying you're wearing your mask, but then you go home, you take it off, you go to the park or what have you, family gathering, and you're not necessarily following the suggested CDC guidelines.
Board members, I would like to reiterate that I did mention it to you, I think via email, but Senate Bill 3049, which the governor has signed and approved into law, states that school districts are immune from any type of liability regarding COVID-19, as long as the school district attempt in good faith to follow public health guidance such as CDC guidelines.
Also, for the record, I want to say those tests cost anywhere between $100 and $170. That's the price increase, but the last time I looked, that's what the price showed.
Well, I appreciate you, Mr. Pulley, telling us what the Senate bill states, and I appreciate you, Ms. Washington, for telling us the amount that each test or that the district would incur. And I want to go on a record, as I will when we come back on Tuesday, that I voted against this. Dr. Brown.
And I just want to make sure I'm clear on what the board pleasure as it relates to the requirement of testing.
My recommendation, again, this is not a board meeting, is that if the health department can provide testing for our students, then we take advantage of that. It is, again, my understanding, and I could be completely wrong, is that some agencies do provide testing at no cost because of possible grants that they're receiving to provide these tests to their communities. And if we need to possibly partner with one of those, I mean, I'm in support of that as well, if it's something that the administration feels is feasible.
Anybody else? Dr. Brown?
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. Next I'll share a complaint that I received from a citizen. And my reasons for sharing this complaint is so that not only does the board, to reassure the board, but to reassure the community that we are responsible with our resources in this district and not abusing the resources. So I just read what I typed for you all. On October 19th, 2020, I met with an upset resident citizen who initially demanded to see our chief of athletics, Mr. Clint Gatewood, who was at one of the schools during that time. After being told that Mr. Gatewood was on a school campus, the individual demanded that she meet with me. After entering my office, the individual stated that she was a concerned citizen and was upset with the district. This individual accused the GLCSD of transporting football players to a Friday night football game to play at Greenville Christian Academy against Indianola Academy on Friday, October 16th of 2020. This individual threatened to report the district for transporting students to play in Greenville and felt that we should not have taken football players to play in that game against Indianola Academy. I informed the individual that our district did not elect to have our students play football this school year and that our buses do not transport any students who are not enrolled in the GLCSD to any private school games. I asked her if she had any evidence that one of our buses were seen at the game. She then stated that there was a bus and I quote, big blacks exited the bus and they said they were from Greenwood. She continued to communicate what she had been told while using language which was racially offensive to me. She stated that if I did not give her any answers, that she would be contacting the state superintendent to report this matter because she is a taxpaying citizen and her dollars should not be used to transport those boys over there. After reassuring her that our buses did not transport any students, our chief of transportation stated that she would begin an investigation and get back with this individual on her findings. At the conclusion of the investigation, it was found that no buses belonging to the GLCSD were on the campus of Greenville Academy on Friday, October 16th of 2020. We want the citizens of this community to know that we work hard to be as responsible as we can with district resources. Any allegations such as these brought to our attention will be fully investigated. I would also like the community to know that our district's vision is a community united to improve the quality of life through education. It is going to take all of us working together to improve the relations in this county, state, and world. I am more willing to work with any individual to find a solution to any concerns. However, offensive language and racial undertones will not be welcomed in my office. I wanted the board to be aware of this incident and that I want the community and others to understand that we are responsible with our resources in the GLCSD.
And we thank you for handling that in a professional manner.
Yes, ma'am. Next, we have a reopening timeline, and this is a draft. We wanted to bring this before the board to get input regarding our reopening timeline, so that we do it as safe as possible, but as safe as possible. So on page 23, if you will look through this, board members, and provide us feedback. Right now it is a draft. We want to bring it to you first. We did send it to principals to get their input, and once we receive input from you, then the principals will also have discussions with the teachers and staff to see how we can safely get this done.
Madam President, if I may. Dr. Brown, so during the next meeting or during the, well, that will be our November meeting, for the potential start, could we get like a example or template what a schedule may look like? I think you
Yes.
all provided it on the front end before. Okay.
Yes, we'll have it.
And Dr. Brown, is dealing with COVID-19 also. So if when they go back into the buildings, if a school has a, employee with, that tests positive for COVID-19, what are the procedures?
Okay. So initially, when we talked about is the teacher, if it's a teacher in her class, I think we just said that we were going to quarantine that school and make sure that the school was properly sanitized during the quarantine days, and continue with virtual instruction for that particular school until the days of quarantine are up.
Okay, so what if it's like popcorn? Because as I'm looking at the news every day, and Dr. Fauci and the CDC are saying that the numbers are going to go high. So if we continue to do this, go in and out like popcorn, I mean, what's going to be the remedy for that?
I think responsibly for us, if it continues to go up and down from building to building consistently for us and to create some normalcy for our kids, then the kids will probably have to go back to being virtual. Because what it would do is, if you having kids to constantly shut down face-to-face to go back virtual, I'm speaking for myself, and I speak with the team, and I'm asking the board, I'm thinking at that point, to get the kids back to some sort of normalcy and to prevent the spread, because if the numbers are continuing to pop up throughout the district, to just shut down and continue to go virtually.
And of course, I know we can't share because of the Privacy Act, but will parents know that there's a positive case in that school?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Johnson has what we have now, if we have a positive case, anyone just say, and I'll say myself, if I tested positive for COVID, Mr. Johnson would not identify who I am, but he would send everyone else a letter to say that you came in contact. And I'm sure there are procedures, if you can explain them with the parents. And I see Nurse Quinn with her hand up also.
I'll let Nurse Quinn weigh in as well. But it's just like this meeting right here that we're having right now. Everyone sign in, everybody's name is listed, we know who all came in. So say if we leave this meeting for some reason and somebody in here contacts us and let us know that they have tested positive for COVID-19, then it's one of our jobs to send out a letter to each one of you, letting you know that you may have been possibly exposed, what the city guidelines say, and our suggestion for you to quarantine and to get tested. And this will be sent out to the parents and students. Mississippi Department of Health has a template letter that they send out to all school districts to use in those scenarios.
So like for instance, on a school bus, and it's different schools on that school bus. So that means everybody on that bus, even though they going to different schools, all of those people that person came in contact with will be quarantined, right?
Quarantine, and that's one of the things that our transportation department has in place. They will have a roster to identify. They'll be doing the temperature taking. So if say one of those students on that bus, not only on that bus, but who all in that student came in contact throughout that day, especially if it was a situation where they were around them for at least 15 minutes or more.
We're educating right now about when we could possibly come back, and right before we come back, we've already talked to Mr. Johnson and our teachers and principals about having a what to expect when we come back to the school. And the CDC procedure is, like Mr. Johnson said, the kids would get on the school with temperature check. If they have a fever, if their house is right there, parents right there, they're going home.
that they're socially distant. But one of the things, and just to be as transparent as I can, when you're on the school bus, especially talking about the winter time, the windows have to be up, and one of the things they speak about is ventilation. So even with them socially distance on the bus, because that bus is such a closed space, you would still need quarantine.
And how many people can, you say it's 24, right?
Yes,
So what's the normal amount on a regular day?
Regular day is about, some hold 56, and I think our larger buses may hold 60.
So we will have 24 students on a bus with no ventilation. Well, airflow is what they talk about.
Especially in the winter time, because you really can't have
How much space would there be between two students?
well, if you put them from one window to another one, that may be somewhere in the 6 feet range, but then you're talking about housekeeping a seat, so you are talking about somewhere sitting on a seat behind them. So that's not 6 feet.
And bus routes are 15 minutes,
Yeah, we have some that are
over 15 minutes is what I'm saying.
But, and I think it's a proposal, of course, they would have an option to choose whether they want to continue virtual or whether they want to come in hybrid. If I'm not mistaken.
So what we did on the timeline, and this is, we'll start with discussing it with our faculty and staff, and then we took a week to host virtual meetings with parents, morning meetings and afternoon meetings at every school, so that, one, we could talk to the parents about COVID, talk to them about what this timeline entails and what to expect, but also to give them the option of allowing their child to choose the virtual or the hybrid. What we're saying is if you choose hybrid for the third 9 weeks, your child has to attend school via hybrid that entire 9 weeks. And if you choose virtual, you cannot change within that 9 weeks. And so once we meet with the parents to hear more from them, we read the surveys. Majority of parents are saying that they will continue with virtual, but we still want to put this option out there. The timeline, we chose January 5th. Our teachers returned to school on January 4th, and possibly on January 5th, hybrid instruction will begin. So that'll give us time to survey parents and also allow them the opportunity, give them time to decide by November 30th whether they would like their child to attend hybrid or virtual in January. But I do want to say this now. We do know that these numbers are still increasing. So if we get to January and these numbers are just too high and it's not safe, we have to consider safety first. And it may upset some, but at the same time, if these numbers have skyrocketed, I'm sure, nobody wants to be in a building when these numbers are higher than what they are now. We are continuing to monitor the numbers, and they are increasing. But we also want to have a plan in place in the event that it is safe to open the school doors. And so we talked about the first of the year. This gives us not only time to consult with you all and come up with a better plan, strengthen this plan, but to educate the community about what it means to open these doors, COVID-19, giving the parents the opportunity to make a decision that's not rushed, also giving transportation, our nurses and everyone else more opportunity to get things that they need to be done in their departments.
I totally agree with you on that, Dr. Brown, and the same is for our faculty and staff starting back in November. Because if we don't have any teachers, then kids can't come back. So I think we need to use the same precautionary measures for our teachers and our staff. And I just got a text on my telephone from a concerned citizen that says that when we're all speaking, that we speaking to the mic because they can't understand what we're saying on the video.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So we're going to leave this draft out.
And while we on that, Dr. Brown, if you don't mind, when you're speaking of the students coming back in January, what's the update on, you remember the behavior specialist that, we had to come in and make a presentation and, or not just necessarily that, but what's the update on what's gonna happen when the kids return dealing with behavior?
So what we're doing is communicating with our safety department to make sure that individuals are trained in the buildings, but to make sure we also have additional resource officers to cover each building. We did speak to the individual regarding the behavioral part of it, and there are some conditions that, there are some conditions regarding moving forward with that. So what we talked about was working with him to do some things, but at this time, you know, we're in district going to make sure that we have our procedures. We're just strengthening the things that we're doing in light of some of the concerns that are things that are happening in the community.
Okay.
Next, we have the review of the agenda for the regular board meeting of Wednesday, November 4th, 2020. And the first thing we have on the agenda, superintendent's report, then we'll have our school at risk and ATSI reports from Dr. Pulley for East Elementary and Leflore Elementary. Then we'll move into the regular agenda, 16 section land. Mr. Ainsworth will be here to provide that information. There's also an approval of student transfer, and that's on page, what page? Well, approval of student transfer, and that's on page 14. And I am aware of what that transfer, the reason for the transfer is personal. Approval of school-based administrative claims, and that is on page 15. And I want Dr. Miller to come forward and explain this position. We talked about finding ways to bring revenue into the district. And Dr. Miller will explain how this particular position will help the district tremendously financially.
Thank you, Dr. Brown and members of the board. Good afternoon. I've been dealing with the SBAC program I've been working about 20 years now, and I think about 15 of those years, I've been in some way integrated into this program as maybe one of the samplers, one of the ones that do the surveys, or as a coordinator of the program itself. Just a little background on the school-based administrative claims program. The Mississippi School Board Administrative Claims Program is a federally funded program that is endorsed by the Mississippi Department of Education and the Division of Medicaid. The SBAC program is directed to all Medicaid eligible and potentially eligible students. SBAC involves a certain staff in a school district who, as part of their regular job routine, help students and their families learn about Medicaid, apply for Medicaid benefits, refer to students to community medical and mental health providers, or collaborate with other school staff or community agencies to better address the healthcare needs of students. How the program works. The school district participates in a random time study moment sampling that collects data identifying the percentages of time the SBAC participant spends performing activities that are reimbursed by the Department of Medicaid. In turn, the district can earn funds for rendering services to children for services that are already being rendered by your school staff. Each quarter, participants are randomly selected to provide details of what they are doing at a specified moment. It is important that the participant complete the needed documentation in a timely manner, and that documentation is simply a random time moment survey. In a nutshell, what happens is you have a person in the district who sends a list to MDE of people who will participate in a survey. These surveys are about a minute long, and what they have to do is say what they're doing right at that moment that is going to encourage parents or encourage students or to talk about, or even in basic conversation about any kind of Medicaid eligible moment. That's all they need. And when they answer those surveys, the district will receive money. And we're talking about, when I was in another school district, we could easily rack up $20,000 in a 3-month period, just from the participation in the program. And so all it is just to make sure that the teachers do those surveys within a 4 or 5 day period. And you just have to stay on top of it and make sure that it's done with fidelity. And the district earns pretty much free money that you can do whatever you want to do with. And let me just say a few of the reimbursable activities. Participating in a meeting or discussion to coordinate or review a student's needs for health-related services covered by Medicaid. That's one thing. Scheduling or arranging transportation to a social, vocational, and or educational program or activity. Those are just some of the things that the responses that they're looking for that can earn you free money. And it's not necessarily what they've done, it's just response to the questions that matter. So technically, if they respond, we get money. And I've been doing this, I spent about 10 years working in Arkansas. I know 5 of those years we were doing the SBAC program. Every district I've ever been in, I was shocked that we weren't doing it here. So if we want to find ways to generate some revenue, this is a good way to do it. And I would suggest not letting this money lay on the table like this.
Thank you, Dr. Miller. I can recall in Leflore County Schools, we did that. I don't know about Greenwood Public.
The last time Leflore did it was in 2018, that's right.
And I was one of the teachers filling it out.
That's right.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have approval of school recognition teachers, what, did I skip something? Yeah. Approval of school recognition teacher staff incentive program, Mr. Johnson.
What page is that on? I don't see it.
It's not in here, but we'll add it, but can you just mention that?
It's just a normal school recognition incentive program through the state, and it's based off your testing for, and I want to say that it was the 18 school year, and it's Washington, correct me if I'm wrong. 2018-19 school year, and those schools that will receive those funds was Leflore County High School, Claudine Brown, and Greenwood Middle School.
You say it's not in the pack?
It's not in the pack. Ms. Flowers will get a copy from Ms. Washington and email you a copy. But what the document entails is the amount that each individual will receive. And I believe at each school they receive this exact same amount. Next we have approval of donation for Threadgill Primary School, Mr. Johnson.
What you have is a donor donated $500 check to the school to use for classroom and school supplies. And that is page 21. You receive the donation on page 22.
next we have on starting with page 23, approval of assisted technology services, Ms. Coleman.
Mississippi State University provides services and equipment for assistive technology so that we can communicate with some students with disabilities who are nonverbal. And when we say nonverbal, they're unable to do sign language as well.
So how many people gonna be trained on this?
What we typically do is we train the teacher, assistant teacher, and we train those in our special ed department who will have contact with that child, for example, a speech therapist or a nurse. So minimum 3.
Next we have approval of athletic donations, page 54. Mr. Johnson.
We had 2 additional donations to come in this month toward the purchasing of the basketball championship rings, and you would see those 2 donations on page 30 and 31.
Next we have on page 57, approval of athletics supplements.
And I did bring y'all that additional, the past supplements for last year and the year before. And I know it's a discussion, I'm not sure. Have y'all looked at it and what was your, I think the concern was the second line.
Next you have the claims docket and financial information beginning on page 60.
I got a question for page. One number says 36 and one number says 61. And this is the claim number 946922. So for this claim, and I saw another number too for open PO. So for this provider, they wouldn't give us any type of training, and we just bought this. That we wouldn't have to pay for any consultant.
Yes, we have had trainings with, with that particular company, vendor. But these particular individuals are training on the actual classroom teaching of it inside of Canvas. The actual Canvas representatives provide the technical aspect of training, like how to maneuver through the system, the navigating of the system and all of those things. But this particular training is geared toward some content-specific things on how do I upload math, a particular math lesson, how do I teach it virtually on this particular platform.
Yeah, but I recall the people that we paying already for like elementary, secondary, and science saying that they could provide those different types of training. I'm just trying to save us money. I'm just saying I just recall that conversation.
Well, and part of our, I will say, part of the additional monies that we received from the COVID funds, that the CARES money stated that we had to provide some professional development with our learning management system. That's a part of the EDLA as well, the Equity and Distance Learning grant also. So even though they're providing support for us, it's not really just the how do you click on this, how do you click on that. They're actually observing the classes and then assisting teachers with uploading the content, showing them how to use the content in the system. Master Connect, Canvas does have the PD, but it only shows you the how to click here, how to go here, how to access that. And we can give more information on that if.
Madam President, if I may. Ms. Washington, Dr. Brown, on page, the first number says 35 and the bottom number says 60, so I think that's the first page of your report. Two questions. Claim number 946892. 892.
That's the Navy ROTC program. They allow them to clean the uniforms for the students that are in that program.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Washington. And 899, it'd be 946899. My question is that for all three schools, and can you or Mr. Johnson tell me what actual services were provided? 899.
899, and I want to say if you looked on the athletic update report, it stated that one of the fields was
Okay, that
completed
particular, okay. That particular service, okay. Thank you. And on page 38, and then it has 63, number 20, the utilities. Unit 20. The top number says 38, and then the bottom page number says 63. Probably so. Okay, can we negotiate? No, okay,
I wish.
all right. Well, we may not have to worry about that too much longer.
Well, we are sending letters out to those vendors.
Okay.
So we're working on it right now.
What do you say, Mr. Johnson?
Yeah, I think they have already made plans for.
Okay, all right. So maybe that'll alleviate some of our issues. Good deal. Thank you, Ms. Washington.
Page 42, Dr. Brown and Ms. Washington. At the top of the page, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Is that 42 over 67?
It's not, let's see, 946, 903, and 904 at the top of the page, 42 over 67. That's correct.
Can you repeat that number again, the claims number?
946, 903, and 904, the first two.
Those are open POs for painting.
So is it like for all schools?
Oh, yes.
Okay. And then what about, just continuing on down, because I'm looking at, they all the same purpose. So like 05, 06, 07, 08, 09, 10.
All of those are the maintenance department, open purchase orders that we leave open for them to be able to pick up things to just keep.
I know, but I'm saying like, okay, when we come Wednesday, can you just jot to the side what it is?
Okay.
Okay. And it's continuing on the next page as well. If you could just jot down some of the things. I mean, because, you know, these kind of big purchase orders, I just want to know what is it that they're getting. same thing, on page 45 over 70, Ms. Washington. Dr. Brown on page 54 over 79. What's the first one?
These are, special education services.
Okay.
Ms. Coleman, that's on 54.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the first one. I understand the other
Yes,
ones.
okay.
Yes, it's someone that we've dealt with before, and that's for the evaluation of students. Remember, we're serving the district and private schools as well.
Mhm. Okay, that's all I have. Any other board member? When y'all finish, y'all can just let me know. I think we're ready, Dr. Brown.
Next, we have the consent agenda, which includes minutes of the regular board meeting of Tuesday, October 6th, minutes of a special call board meeting Monday, October 12th, and minutes of a work session on Wednesday, October 28th. After that, we have personnel recommendations starting on page 101. On page 102, if you look at where it says central office, that name, you'll see two positions beside that name. That second position is paid through our grant, and so that individual will be taking on the duties of that first position with a supplement. So whatever the salary is that's being paid by the grant, I think that it's about $10,000 a difference of that first position. So she will continue working to fulfill the grant will continue to pay for her salary for number 2, and she'll pick up those additional duties with their first position, and that increase to bring her up to what the first salary was. So we're actually saving how much, Ms. Coleman? A lot.
Yes, ma'am, almost a whole salary. You get in the whole person for $10,000.
So this not gonna be overworking, is it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, then.
But she works in the Department of Student Support and School Improvement. She can handle it.
And she's actually done this before in the other school district. And so, and she works well with them now.
And currently, she's the only person that holds the certification for that second position.
Dr. Brown, on page 78 over 103,
Okay.
number 3, the second person.
Okay.
So do we have someone already that can take on that role?
We may in the district have someone, but we want to just post it because we actually may have more than one person for that position. Well, more than one person that can provide that service for that position.
So, you know, I asked you about that yesterday as well, Dr. Brown. So it wouldn't be, what you call it, having a brain freeze, seniority?
Well, right now, the other person mentioned is a coordinator, and we don't know if they're interested or not, but I'm also looking at, in that particular position, past observations, and some other things, but we'll post it and just go through their interview process for their position.
Any other questions?
I do, two things, Dr. Brown. Can we maybe have a copy of that action plan for sports by the board meeting? And then also, can you just update the board on where we are, in terms of the timeline for the bond issue?
Okay, so I believe I emailed the board the timeline, and I haven't heard anything back, but I emailed each board member a copy of the timeline, so the next steps were on the board.
Madam President, if I may.
Go ahead.
And maybe I need to go back and read minutes from past meetings, but maybe somebody can refresh me. But I do recall asking if we could put another RFP out in regards to designs. So, Mr. Johnson, you need, and I don't remember if we voted on that, so you need a vote to do that.
Yeah, I actually have to bring it, if that's what y'all desire, I have to bring an executive summary and I have to get approval to post the RFP
Okay.
to take the lead.
Okay, all right, thank you. Well, so, Madam President, I think that's something that we definitely need to look into based on the cost of the proposed schools that was presented, considering the additional information that was later shared with us regarding what other districts are possibly doing.
So, Mr. Johnson, could that be ready by, you think, next, what is our board meeting, Wednesday? Because voting is Tuesday. So that's a week from today, is that not enough time?
Well, what I can do is, I'm gonna go back and pull the first one that we did. The only thing is, I need a definite, because they would be bidding on what they gonna be designing. So I need to know definitely what I need to put on there for them to, because it's gonna be different than what we was doing before.
Madam President, if I may. So, Mr. Johnson, in your expertise, or is it your suggestion that we not necessarily follow the same model that you used before? And the reason I ask is, if somebody just provided us a quote to say, we can get everything we want for $50 million, maybe that's something that we'll consider, you know, versus maybe only getting an RFP for one school and we realize, hey, it only costs $12 million, maybe we should have considered doing all of it at one time. If that makes sense.
It makes sense. Now, of course, the design cost, I'm not, you know, once we bid, I don't know how much it's gonna cost to do. I mean, if you want me to put an RFP to design this school, this school, this school, to suit these many students, I can put that in the RFP, and then in the end, we're gonna have to pay for all of them, whether we go with all of them or not.
So what would your recommendation be?
I mean, if that's the board, because we won't know exactly how much they cost until we bid out the design fee, so. I can do it to encompass everything that we talked about, and then we can see what the bids come in.
So with the last process, we didn't necessarily come out of pocket Too much?
No.
Okay.
No, that didn't cost us anything, and now, one of the things that is usually about a 3 to 6 month process.
Okay.
And looking at the timeline, one of the first things that was on the timeline was meetings with the executive leadership team and school board. We've not set any dates for any of that, so we're nearing the end of October and approaching November. And so, I think we need to set some type of date.
Dr. Brown, can you send our attorney a copy of that timeline?
I think he has a copy.
Okay.
So who would need to set the date? Would you come up with a date, or do we need to come up with a date, or?
The board.
Mhm. Okay, so in order to keep the process moving, we're gonna have to set this date, so, because we'll be into November and then December, we won't have anything, we still won't be moving.
Okay.
You mean dates for you all to meet?
Right.
And Attorney Pulley or Dr. Brown, there could possibly be a virtual meeting where we don't necessarily have to physically come back to the building, or what would that be feasible, Attorney Pulley? If Dr.
It's good for us.
And I'd like for us to consider having a defined or definite resolve as to what we're going to do going forward before we have Mr. Johnson invite all of the experts, architects, and whoever, comes in, whatever role people are going to be playing, coming up here, and we still not are on one accord with it. So I really, really would like for us to kind of sit down and talk about that before we invite the architects or whoever we're going to go with back up here.
So maybe we can shoot some dates out to each other for over this week before we come back to our next meeting.
Before we come back on Wednesday.
Before we come back on Wednesday. Look at your calendars and let's just shoot. We'll go back and look at the timeline that Dr. Brown gave us, and we shoot each other some dates. Don't forget, govern yourselves accordingly for that training that also that we'll be going to.
Well, the only date left this week is tomorrow and Friday.
What about tomorrow?
And tomorrow is what, Thursday?
Thursday.
I don't think I have anything. I have to make sure I look at my calendar. What about you, Dr. Bailey?
My tomorrow is gone already, so you all have to do that one without me. I do apologize.
And plus, we have to talk to Antoine. So let's just shoot each other a text tonight. And what's Monday's date?
The 8th. No, the 2nd.
November 2nd. Why don't we try to shoot for Monday? Is your date, can you look at your calendar and let it, you are? So y'all want to do it at lunchtime or 4 o'clock?
Lunch.
Come on, Dr. Bailey.
I apologize. I have a full-time job.
So do I.
But I would do my best to work with the board. And again, I just need to know if this is physical or will we be in person or if this would be virtual.
My preference is in person, but you guys work. I don't.
I support virtual, but whatever the board wishes to do.
I support in person.
But we can still get you on the, just like we did with
I don't need y'all whispering, I can hear you.
Come on over to Greenwood.
We'll try it in person Monday, okay? And somebody help me to remember to tell Antoine Williams. Lunchtime Monday? Yes, 12 noon. Is that okay with you, Dr. Brown?
I have administrative evaluation scheduled from starting this week up until November 5th. I don't have anything for lunch because that was the only hour I had, but we can work through lunch.
Okay.
If not Monday, Tuesday is okay with me.
Tuesday's voting, honey.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Okay.
So let's do it Monday at 12. All right, if nothing else, consider yourselves dismissed.